Have you ever been in a moment where everything felt right? She's laughing, making eye contact, maybe even teasing you a little. But deep down, you're asking yourself, is this real or am I just imagining it? That silent question sits in the back of every man's mind. The Stoic doesn't run from uncertainty. He faces it, studies it, and seeks clarity through observation rather than emotion. In a world of filtered words and polite gestures, the eyes remain honest. A woman may not confess her attraction with speech, but her gaze speaks volumes. The way she looks at you, how long, how often, with what intensity. Those aren't accidents. They're quiet truths, whispered by instinct. Stoicism teaches us that reality is often subtle, layered beneath surface impressions. And attraction is no different. When her pupils dilate, when she holds eye contact a breath longer than normal, when her glance lingers just a second too long before she turns away. These are not games. These are signals. Real, involuntary responses to connection. The disciplined man doesn't chase validation. He observes, he decodes, and most importantly, he stays calm in the face of uncertainty, knowing that truth isn't always shouted. It's often hidden in a single, unspoken look. But the eyes are just the beginning. What follows next is even more telling. Touch. Not loud, not obvious, but subtle, deliberate, and repeated. A brush against your arm, a hand that lingers on your shoulder, a playful nudge as she laughs at something only half funny. These are not coincidences. These are moments where instinct overrules intention. The Stoic man doesn't confuse every touch with desire. He doesn't let hope blind him. He watches, he measures. Because true connection doesn't knock loudly. It slips in quietly, disguised as something ordinary. She could have stood anywhere, but she stood next to you. Her hand could have moved on, but it stayed. A hug could have ended a second earlier, but it didn't. These are signs that her body is doing what her mind is afraid to say out loud. And yet, even in these moments, a Stoic remains centered. He doesn't react with desperation or glee. He stays calm, present, composed. He understands that touch is not a promise, it is a signal, one that must be acknowledged, not clung to. Because when a woman begins to break the physical boundary again and again, what she's really doing is giving you permission to exist closer to her world. And the man who notices, but does not overreach, stands tallest. And then there's laughter. Not the polite chuckle offered out of courtesy, but the kind that escapes her before she can control it. The laugh that spills out, raw and real, even when your joke wasn't particularly clever. That's when something clicks. In that moment, a man grounded in stoicism doesn't puff his chest with pride. He doesn't mistake her laughter for conquest. Instead, he reflects, why does she laugh this way with me and not with others? The answer lies not in the joke itself, but in the emotional space you create. Laughter, like touch and eye contact, is involuntary when it's real. It's a form of surrender, a sign that walls are coming down. And when she recalls something you said last week, laughs again, and brings it up today, that's memory meeting affection. This is the moment of realization, not one of ego, but of awareness. Her laughter isn't just amusement, it's alignment. Her spirit is leaning toward yours. The Stoic does not chase laughter. He earns it by being fully present, calm in his being, and grounded in his value. For in a world of masks and roles, genuine joy is rare. When she laughs freely in your presence, what she's really saying is, with you, I can be me. You've probably seen it without even noticing. You lean back in your chair, and a moment later, so does she. You rest your elbow on the table, and her hand follows suit. At first, it feels like nothing. But a man who pays attention realizes, this is mirroring, not mimicry, but unconscious harmony. I once watched a man in a coffee shop speak to a woman across from him. He was calm, deliberate, slow with his gestures. Over time, I noticed her posture began to soften. Her tone mirrored his steadiness, her movements aligned. They were two bodies, two minds, syncing without a word. That is not performance. It's connection made visible. In Stoicism, we understand that the external reflects the internal. So when someone mirrors you, They're not just copying, they're subtly revealing their emotional state. Her body moves in rhythm with yours because, for a moment, your presence leads her energy. But the Stoic man doesn't take this as confirmation to act impulsively. He sees it as a cue, an invitation to continue showing up as grounded, calm, and real. Mirroring is not a victory, it's a reflection. And the wise man, instead of celebrating too soon, simply continues being worthy of alignment. But what happens when mirroring goes beyond the moment? When her presence itself becomes a pattern. She starts appearing where you are, not by coincidence, but by quiet design. She didn't care for that gym before. Now she trains beside you. That cafe wasn't on her radar. Now she's there when you are. And always, always, she finds the seat closest to yours, even when the room is wide open. To the untrained eye, this seems random. But the Stoic sees the nature of things clearly. Where energy flows, intention hides. People go where they feel drawn, even if they can't explain it. Her presence is not just proximity, it's proof of interest without words. Yet the disciplined man resists illusion. He knows desire clouds perception, so he observes, not with hope, but with clarity. Is she consistent in her presence? Does she position herself near you when there's no social obligation? If yes, then it is not the world sending signs. It is a person seeking closeness. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly. But if they're simply drawn to truth, let them find it." So too with her presence. If she's drawn to your energy, let her come. But stand firm. Be the still flame she chooses to return to, not the wildfire chasing her shadow. And then one day you notice something deeper, not where she is, but how she is when she's with you. Her phone stays untouched. Her eyes don't wander. She remembers the smallest things you said days ago, your favorite band, a childhood memory, the way you take your coffee. She is fully present. In a world drowning in distractions, undivided attention is sacred. And when a woman gives it to you freely, it's not just courtesy, it's reverence. The Stoic sees this for what it is, not validation, but presence. A mirror not of flattery, but of focus. Presence cannot be faked. A person either sees you or they don't. And when she does, not as a man seeking approval, but as a man who stands in quiet confidence, the dynamic changes. She leans in, not just physically, but emotionally. Her questions go deeper. Her silences are more comfortable. She's not just hearing you, she's listening for you. Epictetus said, "We have two ears and one mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." True attention, then, is not given lightly. When she offers hers completely, it means you've crossed into rare territory. Not just someone she notices, but someone she respects. And in that, there is something far more powerful than words. Soon after, you notice her words start to dance. Not just in meaning, but in rhythm. She teases you, lightly mocks the way you said something, challenges you to a silly bet, gives you a nickname only she uses. On the surface, it's just play, but beneath it lies something more ancient, the art of attraction cloaked in humor. The Stoic does not flinch at teasing. He welcomes it, not as an attack on ego, but as a bridge of connection. To tease is to invite engagement. It's a push-pull dynamic that keeps the moment alive, the energy sharp. And when it's done with warmth and timing, it signals safety, comfort, interest. Curiosity grows here. You begin to wonder, not with anxiety, but with calm inquiry. Why this name? Why this joke? Why with me and not others? The answer is simple. Because you've become familiar, memorable. Teasing is how she keeps you close without confessing directly. Seneca once said, "A great mind becomes a great companion." And in these playful exchanges, companionship is born, not from need, but from joy. When she plays with you, she's investing emotion. She's showing comfort. And the Stoic man, rather than overanalyzing, simply appreciates, knowing that true connection often begins with a smile that dares you to smile back. And just when you begin to feel the rhythm of it all, her presence, her laughter, her playful jabs, you notice something even more revealing. Around you, she shifts. Maybe she becomes quieter, suddenly unsure of her words, Or maybe she becomes more animated, louder than usual, her energy just a bit off balance. She fidgets with her jewelry, adjusts her clothes, glances down between smiles. To some, this might seem like confusion, but the Stoic sees through appearances. Where discomfort exists, care often hides. A woman does not change for someone who means nothing to her. The nerves, the excitement, the subtle chaos. It's not weakness, it's investment. You matter, and her body doesn't know how to hide it. This is where the wise man offers stillness, not to impress, but to reassure. His calm becomes her anchor. He doesn't push her to speak or demand she act naturally. He simply remains as he is, unshaken, attentive, present. In that, there is healing, a quiet form of permission that says, you don't need to perform around me. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Be that space for her and for yourself. And you'll find that her shift isn't distance, it's drawing near. And as her energy settles in your presence, the signals become unmistakable. She reaches for you again, not with words but with touch, the graze of her hand when passing something over, the slight bump of her shoulder, the hug that lingers just long enough to make you pause. These gestures are not loud, but they echo louder than anything she could say. For the Stoic man, this is the final proof, not of conquest but of clarity. He does not confuse affection with attachment, nor interest with ownership. He understands that human connection is never owed, only offered, and that touch, when given freely, is a sacred gesture of trust. Most would rush in here. Let emotion take the wheel, but not him. He stays grounded. He doesn't chase the moment, he honors it. Because touch is not a green light, it is a reflection of safety, of presence, of subtle desire wrapped in restraint. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And her touch, like her laughter, like her eyes, is not yours to command, but it is yours to recognize. So he meets her gesture with quiet awareness, knowing he's not being tested, he's being invited, not to impress, but simply to be. As the days pass, something even more subtle begins to unfold. Not just the way she looks at you, not just her touch, but the way she moves like you, speaks like you, echoes your rhythm without even knowing it. You shift in your seat, so does she. You use a certain phrase, and hours later it's coming from her lips. This isn't mimicry, it's something far older, far deeper, alignment. The Stoic does not marvel at this with pride. He sees it for what it is, unconscious resonance. When two people begin to reflect each other's behavior, it's because their energies have begun to harmonize. She is not trying to become you, she's responding to you. And not everyone inspires that kind of response. But again, the wise man stays centered. He doesn't take this as a cue to dominate or lead recklessly. He sees it as a mirror of how he carries himself, of the calm or chaos he brings into a room. If her movements follow his, he asks, am I walking a path worth following? In mirroring, we find the final layer of connection, one not forced but felt. And in that reflection, the Stoic finds not confirmation of desire, but a quiet reminder. Inner order creates outer harmony. You're not there, but your presence is. She mentions your name in conversations, recalls a private joke you once shared, or her friends smile knowingly when they see you. These aren't stage performances. They're glimpses into a mind that continues to carry you, even in your absence. And that, above all, is where true attraction lives. Not in proximity, but in memory. The Stoic man does not seek constant validation. He does not ask, what is she saying about me? Instead, he trusts that if he has lived with quiet strength and integrity, his impression will linger. Not because he tried to leave one, but because he simply showed up as himself. A woman who speaks of you when you are not around is not performing for attention. She is processing connection. When your name slips into her stories, when your presence colors her perception of the day, it's because you've become part of her inner world. And that cannot be faked or forced. Seneca once said, a good character, when established, becomes a steady companion, even in our absence. So don't rush to be remembered. Live in such a way that being remembered is inevitable. Quietly, consistently, with presence that lasts longer than your shadow. Throughout life, we learn that people don't always say what they feel. Especially in relationships, what's left unsaid often carries more weight than what is spoken. A lingering glance can speak louder than a compliment. A gentle touch, a sincere laugh, someone mentioning you when you're not around. These are the quiet signs of true connection. In the Stoic mindset, we don't seek constant validation from others. But that doesn't mean we ignore the truth. We observe without judgment. We understand without clinging. And from that place of calm awareness, we respond, not with impulse, but with steadiness. In later years, we gain the advantage of time. There's no need to rush, no need to guess. We simply stay true to ourselves, pay attention to others, and let reality reveal itself in silence. As Epictetus wisely said, don't just listen to what people say, watch what they do. Real understanding doesn't come from asking endlessly. It comes from stillness, from listening with both your eyes and your presence. So if someone's actions whisper a truth, trust it, not because you're desperate to believe, but because you've learned to notice what most overlook. That in quiet attention, wisdom is born. And sometimes the greatest strength is not in reacting, but in simply being.